Hi, Elizabeth. Just wanted to let you know we're going to just hit start broadcast, so anyone can hear you if you talk. So if you don't have any other questions, we'll go ahead and just click start.
Okay, that sounds good. Now, if I mute myself.
Yeah, muting yourself works, and then once Sarah introduces you all and changes presenter, then you can just unmute.
Okay, thanks.
Perfect.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this webinar. We'll give everybody a couple more minutes to join us, and then we'll get started. Hi again, everybody. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the webinar. My name is Sarah Reed, a Program Assistant at the National Association of Regional Councils. If you should have any technical questions during the webinar, please email me directly. My information is on the welcome screen you see in front of you. Today I'm pleased to be joined by Elizabeth Limbrick, the Project Manager at the New Jersey Institute of Technology's Technical Assistance to Brownfield Communities Program, also known as TAP, and Colette Santasiri. She is the Director of the New Jersey Institute of Technology's TAP program. Elizabeth and Colette will provide an overview of their program and the services they offer to communities during this webinar. There will be time for questions and discussion at the end of the presentation. If you have a question during the presentation, please type a question into the questions box on your control panel. A video recording of the presentation will be made available following the webinar. And with that, I will turn it over to Elizabeth to begin.
Thank you, Sarah. So I guess I just need to get the thing that says share screen, and then we'll be all set to go. There it is. Okay.
Looks good.
All right, thank you. So as Sarah said, I am Elizabeth Limbrick, and I'm joined here by Dr. Colette Santasiri, and we are coming to you from the New Jersey Institute of Technology in Newark, New Jersey. I'm really thrilled to be able to represent the NJIT TAB program. Since we haven't met you, we wanted to meet you virtually. I am a project manager, also a licensed site remediation professional in the state of New Jersey. I have my Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science from Susquehanna University, and I have over 20 years of experience, including working at the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, as well as environmental consulting, and my contact information is provided there. And seated next to me is Dr. Colette Santasiri. She is the director of the NJIT TAB program, and she has over 30 years of practical and applied urban environmental infrastructure, land use planning, and community planning experience. She has her PhD in urban systems, her master's in civil engineering, and bachelor's in environmental planning and design. And Colette Santasiri's contact information is up here as well. So the way we wanted to go through the webinar today was to give you sort of a very brief brownfield basics, and we're going to give you the definition of a brownfield. We're going to talk about the disadvantages and advantages of having a brownfield, and really importantly, the benefits of brownfield redevelopment. We're going to follow that up with information about the TAB program. We're going to give you an overview. We're going to give you examples of TAB assistance, and then we're going to tell you how TAB can help you. And did I mention that all of our assistance is free, and you're going to hear a whole lot more about that. So as promised, the first thing is the definition of a brownfield. So what is a brownfield? And this is the definition from USEPA. It is the real property, the expansion, redevelopment, or reuse of which may be complicated by the presence or potential presence of a hazardous substance, pollutant, or contaminant. The type of contamination problems at brownfield sites can vary widely. And they can also vary from things like small parcels that are less than an acre, like your abandoned corner gas station, to a former steel mill or a military installation. The types of contamination can run from asbestos to leaking underground storage tanks, soil and water contamination. You can have solvents, heavy metals, and lead. But what I want you to take away from this is that not all brownfield sites are actually environmentally contaminated. Some are just merely perceived to be contaminated. I'd also like to stress to you that brownfields are not environmental projects. They are development and real estate projects, just with a twist. It's an environmental twist, and that twist could complicate the redevelopment, but it most certainly does not have to prevent redevelopment. And, you know, we have a lot of brownfield sites in the U.S. It's estimated nearly 500,000 sites. Why do we have so many? Really, there's kind of been the history of industrialization. From the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries, we transitioned from a predominantly agricultural and rural society to a more urban industrial society. And during that time, there were lots of things going on. We had new machines, new chemicals, new factories, tanneries, mills, shipyards, petroleum refineries. And there were waste products from all of this and industrial chemicals, things like paints and solvents, coal tar, and petroleum products. And these wastes were sometimes buried, dumped, discharged to waterways. Then by the mid-20th century, we really started to see an economic shift and an urban exodus. And those industries, the factories, the warehouses, the rail yards, the mills, that were once a part of our nation's economic and historic fabric became obsolete, and they moved. And now we had all these industrial abandoned sites, but the soil and water contamination remained. I want to also let you know that it's not just these larger sites that are in the urban settings, although many of them are, and they're concentrated in urban settings. But we also still have more brownfields popping up every day. Things like that abandoned gas station on the corner and the dry cleaner. That's something very common that you're going to see throughout the country. And as you can see on this slide, some old brownfield sites might not even look like a brownfield site. They can be a beautiful meadow, but it could still have contamination from a previous use. So as you can imagine, there are disadvantages to having a brownfield site. First and foremost is the potential harm to human health and degradation to the environment. They can also lower the surrounding property values. They can contribute to neighborhood deterioration, to blight, just to an overall negative perception of a neighborhood. Brownfields are known to be attractive nuisances, attracting vandals, dumping, or other illegal activities, and they contribute to sprawl as activities that could locate on greenfields might do so rather than spend the money to clean up a brownfield site. So those are things that we have to consider. A couple more. They can reduce local employment opportunity, reduce or loss of tax revenue, and limit economic growth. Many of the brownfield sites used to house operations that employed local residents, and then when those businesses leave and the property is not redeveloped, there's really just a loss of local employment opportunities, and again, a reduction in those tax revenues. And if that site's not redeveloped, it's going to limit the growth of a community. So with all those disadvantages, why would anyone want to get involved in brownfields, right? And you might be asking yourself that. Because there are a lot of advantages too. And at NJIT Tab, we like to look on the bright side. We think of brownfields as opportunities. As Thomas Edison, a New Jersey resident who had his laboratory right down the street from us in Newark, once said, opportunity is not recognized by most people when they meet because it's usually dressed in overalls and looks like a lot of work. That's what we have here with brownfields. But one of the advantages to having a brownfield is that there's a location efficiency. There's existing infrastructure. The site was probably originally selected for whatever its former life was for a good reason. It might be near transportation or a waterway. It probably already has utilities like electricity and water or sewer, as well as roads. And a lot of times these brownfield sites can be found in the downtown area. And again, this gets at that idea of being able to reduce sprawl because you're going to be able to redevelop in a more downtown area. And you can see on this slide we have results of an EPA study that shows a pretty significant reduction in vehicle miles traveled when you redevelop a brownfield rather than going out to a greenfield site. And one of those benefits is that you have fewer vehicle miles traveled, so you end up with a reduction in pollution emissions, including greenhouse gases. But we also think that this really shows a transformation of a community. It shows that after a brownfield site is redeveloped, that site now becomes a true destination. And rather than people driving past this site with their windows rolled up and their doors locked, they're stopping at this site. They're not traveling as far. Your community has now become a place that people really want to be. Another advantage of having a brownfield is it's really an opportunity to become a community asset, and there is unlimited potential with this. We're showing you a few examples of brownfield redevelopment projects that we hope will inspire you. Up on the upper left of this one was a site that was operated as a hog farm. a household refuse collection site, and later a place that recycled various materials and handled used oil, automobile batteries, and some hazardous waste. And that site sat empty for many years. Eventually, the town purchased it, and their economic development agency was able to obtain grants to clean up the contaminated soil. And then that site was developed into that new 35,000 square foot building you see there. And a manufacturer of weighing and measuring equipment moved into that building. That helped the town meet its economic development goals, adding over 30 full-time equivalent jobs in manufacturing, engineering, and sales. The next one you see in the middle of the slide was a vacant property with contamination. And this was actually, and the middle site and the one on the right there are both in the same neighborhood, which was an underused industrial corridor in a city that was linked with, just really lined with warehouses, petroleum distribution facilities, lumber yards, stock yards, those kinds of things. And the city, for the one in the middle, obtained a Brownfield grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to complete a cleanup. And that led to the successful redevelopment of what you see in the middle there, which is the deck. And that's an active mixed-use retail and apartment complex. And they are estimating that that's going to add about over $21 million in value to their tax rolls. The one on the far right, again, that's in that same neighborhood. And this was really the catalyst site for this area. This was one of the first brownfield sites in that area to be redeveloped. The hotel that you see in the bottom actually opened about 10 years ago. And when it was added to the tax roll at that time, it gave them an increase in $6.6 million in new taxable value. So we just show you these examples so that you can begin to see the possibilities for how your brownfield site could become a community asset. There are just so many other examples out there, from magnificent parks, urban farming, schools, factories, office parks, housing, and housing can run from luxury housing to affordable housing and even a mix of the two. Maybe even a new brewery for your town. The possibilities are wide open. So the benefits, we had talked about some of the disadvantages before. So why are we doing this? Why are we going to redevelop the site? I'm going to talk to you on this slide and the next one, why it's important. First of all, just kind of ask yourself, is it better to leave a site contaminated, or is it better to clean it up and get it reused, fostering that new growth on old land? So first, there's those environmental benefits. Health and safety. It removes those health and safety hazards. It improves that environmental quality. There's societal benefits. It removes eyesores. It improves the community appearance and community pride along with that. It can also reduce crime in an area. You're no longer having that attractive nuisance that's inviting dumping and other illegal activities. There's a lot of economic possibilities too, increasing property values, potentially increasing your local tax base, creating jobs, and then more societal benefits, again, promoting that infill development, reducing sprawl, really encouraging planned growth, valuing your existing infrastructure, so that reduces the need for new infrastructure and the associated costs with that. And you can create lots of things. You can create housing, again, open space, entertainment, commercial, and retail establishments. And with that, I want to transition over to Dr. Santasiri, who's going to tell you about the TAB program and how we can help you.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Elizabeth said, my name is Colette Santasiri, and I'm very, very happy to be with you today. So Elizabeth talked about cleaning up and redeveloping brownfield sites, and as wonderful as her presentation was, and as cheery as it was, we know that this is a challenging process to clean up sites and to get them redeveloped. You need to know things like how to navigate the regulatory process, how to understand all of the technical issues, know where to get the funding, and a host of other things that a community needs to have some familiarity with before they undertake a project like this. Most communities don't have the resources to have that kind of in-depth knowledge and to sustain that type of knowledge. So that's where the Technical Assistance to Brownfields Communities program comes in. TAB is a technical assistance program. It was created by the EPA and is funded by the EPA. TAB providers serve as independent resources to state, regional, county, tribal, and local government entities and nonprofits attempting to clean up and reclaim brownfields. So when I talk about the government entities, it's not just the municipal staff. It's the economic development agency, for instance, or the Chamber of Commerce. Different types of government entities are included in this, and a lot of different types of nonprofits are involved in cleaning up brownfields. So all of them are eligible to receive technical assistance, and as Elizabeth mentioned earlier, all of this assistance is free of charge. So there are 3 TAB providers that cover the country. Every 5 years or so, EPA has a solicitation process. It's a competitive process to get new TAB providers. EPA established this program back in 2008, and I'm happy to say that the TAB providers that you see here have been TAB providers since 2008. So our programs are very mature. The latest round of solicitation that EPA had was last year. So starting on July 1st of 2016, our five-year cooperative agreement with EPA runs until June 30th of 2021. So we're here for a while. The first TAB provider is the New Jersey Institute of Technology, and that's the program that Elizabeth and I represent. We are the TAB provider for EPA Region 1, which is New England, Region 3, which is the Mid-Atlantic states, and Region 4, which are the southeastern states. Kansas State University, otherwise known as KSU, is the TAB provider for EPA Regions 5, 6, 7, and 8, which is basically the middle of the country. And the Center for Creative Land Recycling, otherwise known as CCLEAR, is the TAB provider for EPA Regions 2, which is on the East Coast, and EPA Regions 9 and 10, which are on the West Coast. So the TAB program that we all have, we provide assistance throughout the entire brownfields redevelopment process. And I want to just stop and say that although the 3 of us have developed programs that are funded by EPA, our programs are similar, but they're not exactly the same. So the specific TAB assistance varies by provider. But we all pretty much provide assistance through 3 mechanisms. The first is our resource center. The second is through our educational forums, and the third is with our one-on-one technical assistance. So I'm going to speak specifically about the NJIT TAB program. Our resource center, which is the first way that we provide our assistance, includes our website, and you can see the address there. And our website has a variety of information, ranging from things like some technical issues, aspects of assessing and cleaning up a brownfield site, to news and upcoming events. It also has resources and tools. We have a listing of federal and state funding sources, state brownfield programs, state and EPA contacts, previously recorded webinars that you can download and listen to. We have downloads of some of our workshops and our seminar presentations. We have various tools on our website that range from our PCB brochures to our green infrastructure decision tree. And coming soon, we will have how-to videos. These are going to be short videos giving some basic instructions on how to do something related to brownfields. In addition, we have our hotline. This is our phone number for our hotline and our email address. Now, I mentioned that this is specific to the NJIT TAB program, but I will tell you that KSU and CCLEAR has similar resource centers. Their websites have a lot of great information. The other mechanism for us providing our assistance is through our educational forums, and we have several different types. First is conferences. We speak at a lot of conferences, and we have programs in these conferences that include pre-conference workshops, learning labs. We do panel sessions, and a lot of these conferences we have office hours, which is when we have a designated area and a designated time slot where any community can come in and talk to us and ask us questions about brownfields. I mentioned community. I usually use this term as a way of including all of those government entities and nonprofits. Rather than listing all of them again, we just roll them up into the term community. So if you hear me saying that, that's the definition of community, all of the government entities and nonprofits that are eligible for free assistance. We conduct workshops. These are usually 2 to 4 hour interactive sessions on some brownfield related topics. Some of our workshops are hosted within a single community, and it's around a topic that is relevant just to that community. So it might be a session on envisioning what the redevelopment can be. Some of our workshops are held in a community, but they're open to many different communities coming and participating in those workshops. And an example of that would be a workshop that is all about how to prepare a successful brownfield application. We have seminars, which are a deeper dive into specific brownfield related topics. We have brownfield boot camps, which are 4 to 7 hour, more intensive deep dives into specific brownfield topics. As an example, we are presently designing a creative placemaking at brownfield sites boot camp. We're also going to be hosting a green stormwater infrastructure on brownfields boot camp. So those are just 2 examples. We have webinars like today's, and those webinars range from introducing the TAB program to webinars on very specific brownfield topics. And we participate in all grantee meetings. This is working with the state environmental agencies as well as the EPA to host a meeting for all of those communities that have EPA brownfield grants. The third way we provide assistance is through our one-on-one technical assistance. We recognize that every community is different and every community's needs are different. Every community has different resources, has different challenges, has different competencies and abilities, and different ways of going about redevelopment. So we like to work one-on-one with communities. We address commonly faced challenges as well as the unique challenges, one community at a time. So throughout the brownfields redevelopment spectrum, a community can have a host of questions. From the beginning as to, the common question is, what's the brownfield? We don't know what that is. Or how do we know we have a brownfield? Where do we get funding from? Our consultant gave us a report that gives all of the testing and analysis information on our brownfield site, but we have no idea how to interpret this. We don't know what all of these technical issues are. Our consultant told us that we should have our site remediated in a certain way. How do we know if that's the best way for our community? So there's a whole lot of questions along the brownfields redevelopment spectrum, and we're here to help answer those questions. So the type and the depth of the assistance NJIT TAB provides is tailored to the needs of the individual community that's coming to us and asking for assistance. So that's a pretty quick overview of the TAB program. I'm going to give this back to Elizabeth to give you some more details on the assistance that we provide and the assistance that we've provided other communities, and hopefully that will get you thinking about how you can tap into our TAB program or into KSU's or CCLEAR's program and get the assistance that would be beneficial to you.
Thank you, Colette. I think that's a great description of what the program is, and I really hope that as you guys have heard what Colette said, and as I take you and give you some examples of stuff we've already done, that you can start thinking of ways that you could utilize and benefit from our services. And again, it's free, really free. I always like to emphasize that. People think there's a catch to it, but there is not. EPA provides us with the funds to provide the assistance to you. So it really doesn't cost you anything. Even if you have a grant, it does not come out of your grant. We have our own grant, and that's where the money comes from. So don't be afraid to reach out to us. We hope that you do. Colette mentioned educational programs as one of the ways that we provide assistance, one of the components to our program. Now that, again, it includes things like conferences, webinars, and seminars. We speak at many conferences, and as you can see on the slide, I listed a couple national conferences that we've done recently. For instance, the National Association of Development Organizations, or NATO's annual training conference, and New Partners for Smart Growth Conference. And what you'll notice about both of those, they're not Brownfields conferences. So we don't speak just at Brownfields conferences. We reach out to kind of that larger audience and tell them about, what opportunities are out there. For instance, at those conferences, we spoke about things like green stormwater infrastructure in brownfields, and funding and financing of brownfields, and urban agriculture. There's also upcoming, and I probably should have put a slide in on this, I'm just thinking of it now though, the EPA's National Brownfields Conference is this December. It's the first week in December in Pittsburgh. That's the third logo I have up there, Brownfields 2017. So we will be very much participating in that, and hope that many of you on this webinar can come and attend that, because it's really a fantastic conference that EPA puts together. And they really only do it, I guess it's every 1.5 to 2 years at this point. So if you can make it there, we highly recommend it. So those are some national conferences that we do. I'm also showing here some regional and state type conferences as well. So there's the Central Appalachian Brownfield Innovation Network. That is a summit that they have now annually. It's going to be held in West Virginia this year, and we talk on all different kinds of topics related to brownfields in Appalachia, from brownfields to health fields, funding and financing. Again, it's always a very popular topic, to grant writing, which we're going to talk about in a little bit as well. And then you'll see also the Brownfield Coalition of the Northeast. We will be presenting at that workshop as well, and that's going to be held right here at the New Jersey Institute of Technology on May 25th. And again, a lot of these conferences, it's a whole gamut of different topics that we talk about. And I just wanted to mention, coming soon under educational programs, we would like to put together a Brownfields to Breweries set of seminars. So stay tuned for that. Webinars. So here's the link to our webinars. If you can't remember that, just go to our website, njit.edu/tab, and then you'll find the button to go to the webinars. But we have a lot of great ones. We do a lot of great ones every single year. We do post a lot of our previous webinars on our website for archive, but we do them live as well, just like this one. The topics range from all kinds of things, like preparing an EPA Brownfields grant application, to funding and financing brownfield projects, really finding those ways to layer your funding options, as well as creating living shorelines. And my favorite on there, I think, is the community engagement one. We also have how to get the right contractor on board. What I would say to you is, let us know if there's a topic you are interested in, and we can develop a webinar around it and get the right experts involved in it. So Colette had given you our email address before. It's tab@njit.edu. Drop us a note and let us know what might be interesting to you.
And this is Colette again. It's important to let you know that these are resources that are available on our website. You don't have to be in our service area to see these resources. And so if you're outside of regions 1, 3, and 4, feel free to visit our website or visit KSU's website or CCLEAR's website. They have a lot of great information too. So, this is not exclusive to just our service area.
Mm-hmm. We mentioned seminars before, and as Colette said, this is sort of that deeper dive. And an example of a seminar series that we did was the roadmap to mill redevelopment. And as you can see on this slide, we actually held these seminars in redeveloped mills. We thought that would be a really great way for people to see a successful example and get a real world understanding of what the possibilities are and hopefully be inspired as well. So for this particular set of seminars, they were conducted in Maine, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. And the topics included site assessment and cleanup, managing and reducing environmental impacts from mill redevelopment projects. We looked at successful redevelopment case studies. People really love that. Structural and infrastructure issues, financing the redevelopment process. Again, financing and funding, we always find our topics that people are very interested in, as well as historic preservation. And some of the assistance that we did to bring this to the public was we really worked with the different stakeholders and coordinated with them. We identified and confirmed different expert speakers. So we reached out and we said, all right, we need to talk about historic preservation. Let's get a historic preservation expert. Let's get developers who've done this before. Let's get architects who've worked on these projects. So that was, part of our role in this was reaching out and getting all those people. We did outreach and marketing. We took care of all the logistics, from identifying the locations to developing the agenda and the materials for the seminars. And then we also facilitated those seminars. So that's an example of something we've already done. I just wanted to let you know, we're always doing more. Next week, we're going to be in Vermont doing the Lender's Guide to Environmental Liability and Liability Protections. And as Colette mentioned, we also have the Brownfield Basics and boot camps that we do. And then there's the one-on-one technical assistance. And we really, really love this part of our program and look forward to doing more of it. As Colette said before, we understand every community is different, has different needs, and that's why we work one-on-one with the communities to address both those commonly faced challenges as well as those unique challenges. And we do it, again, one community at a time. Some examples of how we do that, and I'm going to take you through slides on each one of these, but our grant reviews, we have some PCB brochures, our Brownfield Prioritization process, and community consensus building. So first up are the Brownfield grant reviews, and this is a very popular service that we provide. If people are applying for EPA Brownfield grants, they can send us, if they're in our service area, they can send us their draft Brownfield grant proposal, the 15-page narrative, and we'll review it, and we'll provide comments back that will really help strengthen the proposals and hopefully make them a successful proposal when they submit it. As a side note, I just wanted to mention, in addition to doing those grant reviews, we also conduct grant writing workshops and webinars. And if you're interested in applying for an EPA Brownfield grant, contact us now and we can give you some tips on how to get started. We talked about these briefly, the PCB brochures. This is some of the more technical work that we do. At the request of a nonprofit organization, we develop these brochures to help guide communities through that PCB process and the rules under TSCA. We understand that navigating the TSCA process is quite complex and represents a challenge for many brownfield remediation and redevelopment projects, and that can stretch some limited budgets. So our brochure series focused on the topics that were most relevant to brownfield stakeholders, such as working with the feds and states on PCB regulations on brownfield sites, basically when and what federal involvement is required. We looked at characterization, the sampling and testing approaches for PCBs, as well as the cleanup and management of PCBs. And this was all put into layman's terms so it's easy to understand. Other types of technical assistance that we do with the one-on-one, just wanted to mention, we do things like interpret site characterization results. We did that for a community in Rhode Island who was concerned about a site in their neighborhood, but they had a technical document they didn't really understand. So we put it in layman's terms and help them understand what does it really mean. And we explain cleanup technologies, and for instance, there was a nonprofit developer in Massachusetts who was looking to redevelop the site, and they had a consultant on board who was proposing a remedial action, and they said to us, can you take a look at this and tell us if this is an appropriate remedial action and a cost-effective remedial action? So we did that and provided them with a technical memo documenting our findings. So this is an interesting one, brownfield prioritization. What do you do when you have multiple brownfield sites? Where do you start and where are you going to focus your efforts? And this has been something a few communities have come to us and asked us to help them figure this out. Where should they focus their efforts? And the way we addressed this was by developing a brownfield redevelopment strategic plan. Now, for the community shown here, the focus of the plan was to identify sites that had a really good potential for economic redevelopment and providing jobs. So what we did for them was we developed a prioritization criteria. So we looked at zoning, access to the sites, the size of the sites, things like that, things that might be important for economic redevelopment. Then we reviewed the existing planning documents and we applied the prioritization criteria to approximately 30 brownfield sites. And at the end of that process, we provided the community with a brownfield redevelopment strategic plan. And this plan gave the city a solid base that helped them pursue the revitalization of economically challenged sites within their city. And with this plan in hand, it really helped the city leverage other resources and grants. And it ultimately helped them realize many of the goals outlined in their master plan and various neighborhood redevelopment plans. So it really was a very useful tool for them. And the last one I wanted to share with you, last example, is about community consensus building. And the particular project here is a former tannery site that was ultimately redeveloped into a park. In this particular case, the town came to us and said, you know, we need help understanding what does the community really want us to do with this site. So we conducted a visioning charrette, which guided the core stakeholder group through a site reuse thought process. And we did a lot of research. We came up with demographics. We looked at trends. We tried to figure out what kind of scenarios would make sense for them based on what we were seeing. And we made different suggestions from things like a park to things like we said, you know, we're seeing an aging population. So maybe you want to look at senior housing. You seem to have a lack of medical services. So you may want to look at bringing some medical services into the town. And then we solicited the community input. In the end, the community said, we really want a park. And that's great. So that feedback that we got from the public helped us to dovetail the cleanup of the brownfield site with the reuse in a really great way. We were able to retain some of the gravel access roads that had been constructed for the remediation project and then incorporate those gravel access roads right into a loop trail for the park. Then we also worked with the community. We said, okay, great, you guys want a park. What kind of park do you want it to be? Do you want to allow motorized vehicles, things like ATVs and snowmobiles, because this happened to be up in Maine, this particular park, or do you want to keep it more natural? And the community came back and said, we want to keep this one more natural. So we were able to document all that and provide a redevelopment plan that captured all of that information and the process. So that park has been open and people are very happy with it. So those are the kinds of things that we can do. I want to turn it back over to Dr. Santasiri for a moment.
So Elizabeth mentioned specific ways NJIT TAB has provided services. Again, the other TAB providers, KSU and CClear, also have great examples of how they provide their assistance. So we encourage you to reach out to your TAB provider. As I mentioned, NJIT is the TAB provider in EPA regions 1, 3, and 4. CClear is the TAB provider in regions 2, 9, and 10. and KSU is the tab provider in regions 5, 6, 7, and 8. The contact information for each of these tab providers is on your screen. Phone numbers, email addresses, and each of our websites. So we really encourage you to reach out. For those of you who are in our tab region, regions 1, 3, and 4, if you have any questions, or you want to get a little more information about what we do, or you have a particular site that you're really interested in, pick up the phone, call us anytime, email us anytime. We're here for you. We're here to answer your questions and provide you with assistance. So again, we're only a phone call away. We don't have for instance, a yearly solicitation process where we're asking for applications from you as to what kind of assistance you want and what we can provide in that year. We don't do any of that. The only requirement is you have to be a government entity. The assistance we give you has to be brownfield related, and the first step is yours. Give us a call, send us an email. We're here to help you.
Yes, yeah, government, nonprofit entities, reach out to us. The only reason you're not receiving tab assistance is because you haven't asked. That's what we like to say. Give us a call. The worst we could do is say, that's outside of the scope of work that we do, but maybe here's another resource that could help you with that. It doesn't hurt to ask, is what so please let us know what interests you. And with that, I think we'd like to open it up for questions and answers if anybody has any questions or comments.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth and Colette. That was great. So we do have time for questions, and as a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, you can select the raise your hand button on your control panel and I can unmute you, or you can type a question into the question box and I can read it. We don't have any right now, but I'll give people a minute or two.
Okay, sounds good.
One of the things that we can mention is when the assistance we provide ranges greatly. Sometimes it's just somebody has a question, they give us a call and we can answer it, and it's a 5-minute phone conversation or an email exchange. And sometimes the assistance we provide actually lasts for several months, and in a couple of cases a couple of years. So there's no limit to your question and your request for assistance. Again, it could be just a quick question, or it could be something that we really need to work with you for a while. It really ranges.
So we got a question. It's, do you use outside, not-for-profit program managers or administrators?
So we have a tab team, and this is just for NJIT I'm speaking about. We have a core staff here at NJIT of planners, engineers, and environmental scientists, and we do probably the bulk of the assistance work, but we do have subcontractors who work with us, and those subcontractors have a particular skill set that we tap into. Sometimes it's they have an expertise that we may not have on staff, or sometimes we have a lot of communities asking for help that we just need support in the work that we do. So it is a team of NJIT employees as well as some of our subcontractors. We also partner with different organizations. Like today, we're partnering with NARC, but we partner with other organizations to get our assistance out to a lot of different communities.
Great. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, I have a follow-up question to that. Do you use external compliance professionals, and how can I get information about the subcontractor opportunities?
So the subcontractors that we have on board, we have to go through a competitive solicitation process, which we did last year, and these are the subcontractors who are going to be staying with us for 5 years. From time to time, there may be a request for assistance that is beyond what we do or beyond what our other team members have the ability to do. So we may have another solicitation process, but right now we're pretty set with the subcontractors that we have on board.
At least that's for the NJIT program.
Correct.
If you want to reach out directly to C-Clear or Kansas State, you may want to send them an email or give them a phone call and see if they have any opportunities.
Great, thank you. Okay, so seeing as we don't have any other questions, we can go ahead and close. Colette and Elizabeth, did you have any final thoughts you want to share?
Just reach out to us again. All you have to do is pick up the phone or drop us an email. We are really happy to be here, and we really want to provide assistance to those entities out there that could benefit from our expertise.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for joining us. And as a reminder to attendees, you'll receive an email within the next 24 hours with a link to a video of the presentation, and we'll also share that on our NARC channels. So thank you again for your attendance, and we look forward to your participation on future webinars. So have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.